So I didn't see any of these videos online, but this is a quick guide to buying vintage 35mm SLRs. I've bought a lot in the past, and I'm just going to go over some of the tips and tricks. The first thing and the most important thing is knowing the price of your cameras. This just takes a lot of experience and time. Go on eBay, look at completed listings, and then go into camera stores and figure out why some cameras are worth more, why some cameras are worth less. So when you see vintage cameras, you know which ones to put money into and which ones to stay away from. So this is my basic run through when I find a SLR. The first thing is I always try to keep a Swiss Army knife on me, something with a screwdriver, and this is to open battery compartments to check things out. So the first thing I checked is mechanical. Does it work? Always check your shutter a couple times, make sure that it's going and correct. And then for shutter speed, make sure that all your settings you can choose, that it works correctly. Same thing with ASA. I checked all the settings, make sure everything is working. Then the next thing I always check is battery compartment. So this is why I have a Swiss Army knife. On this camera you don't need it, but on a lot of cameras you do. You're going to have to open the battery compartment and see if there's any corrosion. So a lot of times with these cameras, people will leave the batteries in there for a long period of time, and that can lead to corrosion. I'll get a close-up right here of the open battery compartment. So this one has no corrosion. This is really clean, and this is what I look for. If there's a lot of white dust in there, that means it looks like white dust. That means their corrosion happened. Next thing, I open the back of the camera. So open the back door, look inside where the film is. You want to make sure it's clean, first of all. And then you're going to look at the seals. So the seals on the top and the bottom right there. Most of the time you're going to have to replace them. That's going to be about $15 to $20. Most cameras you need to replace. Just make sure it's clean. And the next thing, I check the functions. So one thing I do, a trick, is I turn the shutter speed down really low to make sure it goes correctly. And then I turn the shutter speed up really high, just so you know that those settings are correct. So those aren't messed up. So here's a really fast one. The one before is really slow. This one's really fast. You can't even see it. Also, just make sure everything's working. The spools and everything are clean. And then check the viewfinder. A cracked viewfinder is a pretty expensive fix, about $0 to $50. Next, for lenses, buy lenses that are made from the manufacturer of the body. So if it's a Minolta camera, make sure it has a Minolta lens. Sometimes it won't be the case, but that's always my preference. Right here I'm checking for fungus, and if you see that right there, that white looks like spider webs, that's fungus, and that's really bad. Costs about starting at $50 a fix, so really expensive fix. Usually that's a deal breaker. This is another lens, and you see that when I do the same test, it's clean. You don't see that fungus in there. So this is a pretty good lens. It's not a manufacturer's lens, the body manufacturer's lens, but it's a pretty good lens. And that's another thing with eBay, knowing which lenses cost, the price of lenses, and knowing why they cost more or less. Another thing I do, I take off the lens and look at the mirror, make sure everything there is working. Usually I cock the shutter a couple times, make sure that inside it looks alright, nothing's funny is happening. And the last thing is, if you're going to sell, you want to double your cost. So figure out how much it costs to fix something, and then you always double it. So if it costs $30 for the camera and all the fixes, making sure you can sell it for $60, or it's usually a deal breaker. And these are the price of some fixes. And 0 to 50 are cheap things like cleaning, battery corrosion, dust, and new seals. Expensive stuff, parts, electronics, rust, fungus, and internal repair. Those are usually deal breakers, unless it's a very, very good camera. And that's why you have to know the prices on the camera. I hope this helps. Thanks.